Thanks, Joe. Always a treat, Joe. And good morning, everyone. Welcome. I saw a number of new faces this morning. If you're new here, welcome. Glad you're here. Hopefully this will be rather painless. Hey, so far so good? This was great, Joe. Thank you. So the other night, Kathy mentioned she needed to run to the store, my wife, and I don't know, it was a little bit later. I said, hey, I was thinking I was going to run out to the bank quick and wash the car. Why don't we just go together? She said, oh, great. So we jumped into the car. We rolled up to the store. She hopped out. I said, I'm just going to run out, do these things, and I'll come back and pick you up. She goes, great. So I run over to the bank, get that done. I go and get the car washed, and I come back. And I'm thinking, should be right there. Nope. Okay. She's probably almost done. So I go and park the car. And I turn on a podcast, and I'm thinking, she'll probably be running out here any second. Okay. And I'm waiting. And then, maybe 5 minutes goes by. And I'm thinking, interesting. I'm going to just text her. So I text her, hey, Kath, you almost done? Out here? I'm here. Just in case you're wondering. I'm right out here, ready to grab you. She must have been busy because no response to the text. So I'm like, okay. Just worry about the podcast, Jeff. Respond to that email. Do what you got to do. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, how long do you need? I could tell, hey, we didn't talk timelines. We didn't talk how much stuff she had to get in that store. Maybe that was a big mistake. But in my mind, I was thinking, my stuff should probably equate to your stuff. And it seemed like every 2 or 3 minutes that elapsed, something was just jabbing at me. You ever had that happen? I'm just like, and there's this voice in my head that's saying, you better say something when she comes out. So then I tried calling her. She didn't pick up. I'm like, okay. When she came out, I'm looking over at her, and she was all happy. She was just smiling. There was a part of me that's just all of a sudden saying, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say? What am I going to say? Because I was bugged. I'm like, that was a long time. She got into the car. We started driving. And after only a couple minutes, she could tell all was not well in Jeff's world. She was like, okay, Jeff's not responding the way he normally does. Intentionally, I'm trying to passive-aggressively tell her I am very pissed off right now. So as we're driving, I'm thinking, do I say anything or do I just let this go? We almost got home. Almost. And I had to open my mouth. Yeah, it didn't go well. We got into the house and it was not. After opening my mouth, everything went south. I don't know about you. If you were to look back at the last week, at the number of little times when something happened so unexpectedly, you don't even see it coming. And all of a sudden, someone says something to you. And or someone said they're going to do something, and then they don't. something happens and it's like a thorn just gets in you. It's like, oh. Just think back last week. Did it happen to you? Whatever it was. And all of a sudden, your emotion starts rising up. The anger, or maybe the frustration, or maybe someone did something and it panicked you to the point where you were angry or just freaked out. And what did the response look like? Did you just handle it masterfully and just diffuse the situation and on went, the harps were playing and you just rolled along? Or perhaps were you like me, where you just started ringing pots and everything just starts flying. And then you're left with a bit of a mess. Wouldn't it be nice if there was such thing as some kind of situation or decision coach that would just kind of show up on your shoulder and say, Jeff, whoa, hang on, I know what you're thinking. Don't say it. Or think about this. I know you're thinking about what to say, but how about we think about how you're going to say it? I would have loved that in my ear. Hang on. Even someone that could just say, hey, breathe. Let's just breathe. Let's just regulate the emotions. Okay, you're good. Relax. Okay, let's think about this logically. If you were to say this, what do you think she's going to say? Man, wouldn't that be nice? Just a little coach to just diffuse it before you end up frickin' doing something that ends up with you going, oh, what was I thinking? Why did I... That decision coach is actually something that all of us likely have at some level or degree internally. And it's called wisdom. Last week I demonstrated I have little wisdom sometimes. Wisdom is like this internal coach who warns, who calms the water, who says, hang on, Jarvis, think carefully about how you're going to proceed in this moment. Don't just think about what it is you want to say. Think over here how that's going to land. Perhaps that's why King Solomon said that wisdom is more precious than rubies. In fact, nothing you desire compares with wisdom. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about Jesus. Wisdom and learning from one of the greatest of all times. This guy, we call him the GOAT. He initiated a movement that still to this day is running rampant worldwide. He started something and we're looking at it going, what was it about this guy that has people all over the world determined to follow in his way? What was it about him? Through this historical Jesus movement, this movement that said, okay, yes, the Bible says a bunch of things about Jesus, but even if you look broader than just what the Bible said about Jesus, if you look at some of the historians of his day and what they were saying about Jesus, let's look very objectively at who this guy was, what the world saw at that time that he walked the earth. What do we really know about him? One of the indisputable things about Jesus that it seems everyone unanimously agrees about Jesus is that he was an incredible wisdom teacher, a sage wisdom teacher. In typical Jewish style, Jesus would coach people through short little sayings and stories, clever parables. Stories that often challenged the social norms of their day, just trying to help people do life a little better. Man, Jesus would tell these stories about like everyday experiences and turn them into such profound learning moments. Left people going, wait, is that character in that story, are you saying that's me? Are you suggesting that what I've been doing all along perhaps is the wrong thing? Like he would leave audiences absolutely captured going, I think that story's talking to me right now. He would tell these stories in a way that would get people wrestling with certain values, ways of doing life. He would instill this framework that got people thinking just differently than perhaps, or looking at life through a different lens than they had been. Values, teaching values like compassion, justice, humility. Man, in this role, Jesus was more like a Confucius or a Socrates. He was just this charismatic thinker that invited people to rethink how they were living, how they were treating each other. Not just blindly, robotically following some rules, saying, oh, this is right, this is wrong. He'd say, think deeply about that for a second. Because perhaps the way you've been doing life, the way that you've been taught might not be the full picture. Ooh. Last week, Vince talked about politics. And he used one of these provocative, wise sayings of Jesus to dive into the topic. Jesus came out one day and says, you've heard, take care of your friends, love those people in your life. He says, anyone can do that. Try loving your enemies. Try praying for those who are on your back, trying to take your lunch. Can you imagine how provocative that would have been? Vince dove into the world of politics and those people that see things different than you, who vote differently, who have different ideologies that they hold valuable. He says, how often do we end up on different sides of a fence looking at those other people as almost inhuman? Like, how could you even believe? How could you even vote that way? How could you support that guy? Whoever, whatever. How often almost enemy lines get drawn within politics. Vince comes out the other side using this line from Jesus, saying, could we listen to those people's arguments with greater openness and curiosity? Could we steel man their arguments, in fact? Could we listen so carefully to their arguments that we could turn around and repeat them with clarity? Not just trying to poke holes in them, but actually pointing out the best arguments that they make on the other side of the fence in a very honest, transparent way. Could we honor their critiques of our positions, especially when we see the validity of them? Could that be what Jesus meant when he says, love your enemies? One little statement gets you kind of going, whoa, 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 whoa. This is the thing about wisdom. It rarely lets us get comfortable sitting up in our ivory tower at 50,000 feet looking down going, oh, I can't believe those people do that. I believe that. I can't believe that they actually engage in these kind of behavior. That's wrong. That's bad. That's evil. Whatever it is. No, wisdom doesn't let us sit up in the ivory towers very long at that high level. No, often it forces us to drop down from 50,000 feet to 500 feet and asks us to wrestle with some application of our ideology or rule or morality, especially in light of a very unique situation. It says, oh, yeah, it's easy to draw really black and white lines. Why don't you try to apply that line to this story? or that person's life? Or what about this circumstance here? How does your belief work over here? Wisdom says, come on. Don't stand up there and just, no, come down here and tell me how it works for them. It forces us to acknowledge the complexities that don't always allow for perfect application. Your beliefs sound great, but man, when you put them where the rubber hits the road, some of them tend to crack. Some of them just don't seem so clear and cut and dried. Jesus was teaching in the temple one day when a group of religious leaders dragged a woman caught in adultery. Dragged her in. Conveniently, the guy was nowhere to be found. That was interesting, but they found the girl. Anyway, it's another story. They threw this woman before him and said, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act. The law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say?" Now, it's interesting. In the Bible story, the narrator steps out and says, actually, these religious leaders are trying to trap Jesus. Because if he says, let her go, he's dismissing the law of Moses. He's taking their beliefs and then he's casting them aside and said, I don't care about them. But if he says, stone her, well, his whole message of compassion seems hollow, doesn't mean it. So let's see what he does with this. Well, Jesus, it says he bends down, he starts taking his finger and writing something in the dirt. We're not even told what he's writing. And I don't even know how long he was bent over. Everyone's kind of waiting for him. I'm going, what's he doing? And at some point he stands up and he says, okay, let's stone her. Grab your rocks. And then he says, let the one among you who is without sin throw the first stone. Oh, man. In one fell swoop, he acknowledges the moral failure. But he says, which one of you is righteous enough to play the moral police? One by one, it says the accusers left, starting with the oldest. At some point, he looks up. They're gone. You know, if you look carefully at the body of Jesus' wisdom that he taught, that he role modeled, so often the wisdom, his wisdom, challenged people to worry about themselves. Again and again, he says, frickin' leave him alone. Focus right here on yourself. Jesus, he was teaching a crowd one day and he told them, stop picking on people. Quit jumping on their failures. Quit criticizing their faults. Unless, of course, you're wanting the same treatment. That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It will come back on you. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. We've probably all heard the golden rule. This was Jesus, man. He's like, do unto others simply as you would like done to you. If there is one piece of wisdom the world would change if we all just adopted, hey? The simple yet profound ethic that just simply says, put yourself in their shoes for a second. Look through their eyes, and then let empathy tell you what's right. This is the thing about wisdom. True wisdom isn't so much about intellect. It's not about your collection or your retention of the facts. It's about emotional maturity. It's about humility. It's about an awareness of one's limitations and capacity to do wrong. to be wrong. Enough humility to realize at any given moment, it could be me doing what he is doing or she is doing. Boy, that takes humility. It takes a level of emotional maturity. So I say to Kathy, I'm just frustrated because you didn't tell me you were going to be in that store for an hour. I'm up in my high horse, just saying, hey, answer that. She says, would you know how many times I've been waiting for you? In a second, I'm thinking, oh, shit. The number of times she would be hovering around in the lobby while I'd be sitting talking with some people after service, trying to take care of our kids while I'm tied up. The number of times I told her, I'm going to be home by 6. I could just, in that heartbeat, second before, I couldn't see it. Second later, after she said that, I'm just like, frick, Jeff. There are these painful moments when it's so obvious in my life that I got this plank and I can't see very well, but I got the tweezers out and I'm trying to pull that sliver out of Kathy's eye. I'm saying, just hold still. You got a problem here. I'm going to fix it. You ever get caught in that place? Jesus challenged people to see the wisdom of empathy and non-judgment often. Worry about yourself. But there was this other topic that seemed to come up on a fairly regular pattern. And it was all around the inequity of life. Because we all just want life to be fair, right? How many times do you feel like, well, wait a second, that's not fair? He told a story one time of these brothers. One son goes to his dad, says, look, you're going to give me inheritance, right? Dad says, yeah. He says, could I have it now? No, wise or not, the dad decides, sure. You're right. Okay, here you go. The guy goes out, and the son irresponsibly blows it, partying, wild living, and ends up in this dark, destitute place, broke. Absolutely irresponsible. He's so desperate, he's thinking, you know what? I could probably go home and just ask my dad to hire me just like one of his other workers. Likely he won't even acknowledge me, but if I could just work for him like one of his other workers, I would be better off than where I am right now in my life. So he comes home. His dad sees him walking up the driveway. And Jesus says that his dad just starts running. Open arms. Grabs him, hugs him, swings around. He says, you're home. Let's throw a party. Well, meanwhile, his brother, the other brother who's been at home, he's been working faithfully, probably had to take on some of the jobs that his irresponsible brothers left behind. He's been doing everything for his dad. All of a sudden, he sees his dad doing cartwheels because this irresponsible freaking brother comes home, and his dad's saying, come on, kill the cat. We're throwing a party. Help. His brother's sitting there going, what? You kidding me? He doesn't deserve. He's mad. His dad comes over to that older, responsible brother and says, you've been good, man. You've been amazing, but he was lost. What was lost was found, and we need to celebrate this. I'm sure in that moment there were parents sitting there going, wait a second. I don't know if you're teaching that kid properly. I'm sure there was probably the straight arrows in the crowd who had never deviated from this responsible life who were going, are you kidding me, Jesus? What are you suggesting here? Often Jesus told stories like this that would have left people just a little bit frustrated, confused. Where are we going here? Jesus would push back in a story like this and say, life and love sometimes gets lost when we keep score too carefully. Sometimes it misses the point when we go, wait a second, no, that's not fair, careful. Because life isn't always fair. And love doesn't always keep track, not always. And that story doesn't make sense unless you're the one who made mistakes. And then you have a moment where you're going, what the frick was I thinking? And in a moment of contrite heart, you say, can you forgive me? And knowing the punishment you deserve, that person opens up their arms and says, come here. Then the story really makes sense. And if you've ever been that person, this story of the prodigal son just goes, oh, thank God. There's room for that. That leads to a better world. This is the thing about the wisdom that Jesus often spoke of. It often requires a response that isn't natural. It isn't just always instinctual. It's like, oh yes, of course, that's what I must do. No, sometimes the very wise response that Jesus talked about fights against the voices in our head. It fights against those parts that say, no, you don't have to do that. Stop. Don't let him in. No. He doesn't deserve. That's not fair. Can run completely counter to deep down inside what you most want to do in that moment. In the process, wisdom, this beautiful wisdom, can expose our attachments to things, to outcomes, things that may honor what I want, but may not be best for those around me. It can expose that. Say, oh, I know what you want. Think bigger and wider right now. Or it may honor someone, what you're thinking. You're going, oh no, I need to take care of that person. But it doesn't honor what is best for you. And wisdom would say, hang on a second. I know that might keep peace, but your boundary has been crossed, and you better think twice before you just say yes to that. So often this wisdom that Jesus taught about, big picture, was always pushing toward a better world, a better place that took the collective. Said, wait, it's more than just you, and it's just more than just them. This is exactly what happened one day when a young, wealthy influencer shows up with Jesus, and he says, okay, what can I do? What must I do to have this thing that you're talking about? This spiritual life, this beautiful, abundant life. He says, okay, and he throws out a few things. The guy's just checking them off. Yep, done. What else? At one point, Jesus says, you know what? Go and sell all you have and give it to the poor. It was interesting. Jesus, in all the recorded stories, we never see him telling other people to do this very thing. And it's always made me wonder, why did he do that? And I wonder perhaps if, as he's watching this guy and mentioning some of these other things, if he didn't sniff out that this guy's me was very dominant. His ability to take care of I was so much his priority that he could not see the needs of others. And Jesus, in a moment, he says, tell you what, sell all you have and help out some of these other people. And the guy's going, said Jesus, the guy just walked away. He said, no, I'm out. And you know what? I think that happened often for people who were listening to Jesus' wisdom. I think there were many who would listen to some of the things that Jesus would say, and they're going, wait, if that's what, I don't think so. They couldn't see the incredible wisdom that Jesus was saying. They couldn't see it. This must have been frustrating to Jesus. His disciples one time asked him, they said, why are you always telling these stories? Oh, he says something so powerful. He says, I tell stories to create readiness, to nudge people toward a welcome awakening. Because in their present state, they will stare till doomsday and not see what I'm talking about. Till they're blue in the face and still not get it. He tells the story. He says, farmer goes out and plants seeds in the field, like with a big broadcast spreader. I don't know, maybe on the back of a tractor, maybe just one of those hand jobs. Seed flying everywhere, flying everywhere. He says some seed landed on the sidewalk and it never had a chance. Birds swooped in and ate it right away. Other seed fell on shallow, rocky ground. Sprouted quickly because the soil was thin, but then the sun came down, scorched it. Seed dried up, died, because it had no roots. There was some seed, though, that fell among weeds and thorns. And the seeds started growing, but those weeds choked them out. So the fruit never came. But he said some seed landed on good soil. It sank deep into that soil and took root. And over time, it produced a huge harvest, far more than anyone expected. So he tells this parable, and then he says, this is what it means. He says the sidewalk, the seed that fell on the sidewalk represents that person with a hardened heart. Nothing sinks in. You can throw wisdom at them, and it just bounces off. Got nothing. The shallow soil is a person who gets excited at first, says, oh, that's magic. Oh, I love what that was about. Oh, I read this book. It was, this podcast. So much there. But they give up when things get hard. The thorny ground is a person who hears truth, but life's worries, stress, chasing wealth, me, whatever it is, rises up and chokes it out. They forget it. But he said the good soil is the person whose heart is open, who's honest and ready. They live what they hear. They hear it and they do it. And their life produces something powerful and meaningful. Of course, the question he would always kind of lead to is, what kind of soil does your life represent? Who are you in that story? Who are you in that story? How ready are you to not just hear, not just pontificate about wisdom, but to wrestle with it to the point where you're actually willing to figure out how to apply it, how it works in other people's lives, how to actually use it in your life. This, in the end, really is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Because you can know a lot of really great, important, even spiritual truths. But I'm telling you, if we don't practice them, if they don't find a way into our lives, they end up having very little value. It's like what Jesus said. And this, I'm telling you, no truer words. He said, these words that I'm talking to you about, this wisdom that I'm dropping, it's not just incidental additions to your life. They're not just like, oh, here's a little tidbit that you might want to chew on. He's going, they are foundational words. Words to build a life on. You work these words into your life, and you are a smart carpenter who builds their house on solid concrete. You pour the pad with tons of rebar. That pad ain't going anywhere. And you build your house on that, because when the storms come, when the tornadoes blow, when the hurricanes, frickin' hail, man, we had lots yesterday. When it comes, you're good. But he says, man, if you just use my words in Bible studies, I love this translation. You're like a stupid carpenter who built his house on the sandy beach, and when that storm rolled in, it folded like a cheap tent. I'm sobered today by how easy it is, how easy it's been to hear or read something that Jesus said that makes so much sense, that reeks of this powerful wisdom that I know would make my life better if I would just practice it. But there I am outside the store on a Thursday night. I'm going, no, I think I know better. I think I got this. Hold my beer. Kath, I have something to say. Proverbial beer. I wasn't drinking and driving. It's easy to forget it. It's easy to use it in Bible studies. It's easy to talk about it here on a Sunday morning. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to that ugly sneer on your own, telling you I'm guilty. When I think about the number of times in a day when I can be guilty of this, just trusting my own, which is why we need regular reminders of this wisdom, right? We tell stories to create readiness, to nudge people toward a welcome awakening. I don't know about you, but man, I need another awakening today. I need a little shake of the shoulders saying, Jarvis, come on. There's a wisdom waiting for you that will lead to a better life. How about it? This is the beauty of the spiritual gym. I got to tell you something. You need a spiritual gym, and I don't care in what form it comes, whether it's a podcast, a book, a meeting like this on a Sunday morning that just takes a time out and says, what am I doing now? Oh, last week, that was bad. This week, come on, here we go. Where we try to incorporate this wisdom that leads to we. Oh, man. So the question for each of us today, I would propose, am I willing to embrace the wisdom? Am I looking for it? Is my heart open? Are my ears like antennae listening? And not just for knowledge, but what am I missing here? What am I going to do when I walk out those doors? How can I apply this? Where have I been missing it? Where have I been judging? Where have I been demanding fairness when maybe that's not the thing right now? And am I open to it? My prayer for you this week is that you would open yourself up again again and again and again. And maybe you closed off this last week, open up again. Open the eyes. And where maybe you said no last week, say yes this time. Because all it can take is one little decision. Keep it at the forefront of your mind. Set a reminder. Put a sticky note on that mirror. Set an alarm on your phone that says, come on, wake up. Well, wisdom is calling. May we be one of the ones that don't get caught staring till we're blue in the face. May we be the ones when all of a sudden the spidey senses start tingling, saying, Jarvis, shut your mouth right now. It's my prayer for you. Because, man, I'm telling you, if it's true that wisdom is more precious than rubies, if it's true that nothing truly could compare with it, your effort this week to open yourself up to it might be the best 15 minutes of the last month. And who knows how much more. Amen? Good. Let's do it. Let's be wise this week. That's all I got. This is the last week of the Jesus series. Yeah, I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's got your wheels turning. Hope it's provoked some thought in you. Yeah, may we keep the words and the actions in the life of Jesus close. I think it's well worthwhile. Good. Go out, have a great week. We'll see you back here hopefully next week. Tuning in. And goodbye to all those out on there online too. See you soon.